Welcome everyone. In this session, we're going to give you the overview about the whole payroll process. So you're going to learn every single steps that you follow for the payroll. This is very important to understand the basic calculation and basic information regarding the payroll. Of course, this sort of information we need every day when you process the payroll. So let's start and go through every single steps we have in order to process the payroll. So the first one is we want to know what is PAYE. PAYE is pay as you earn. So this system is introduced by the Hmrc. So as long as you earn any money from the employment, that will be subject to tax and the national insurance. And of course, like there is some threshold. Even if you earn a qualified amount, if you don't earn qualified amount, so it will be calculated under the PAYE. So it is possible you have to pay some tax or national insurance. It is also possible you don't have to pay any tax or national insurance, depends on your earning. So let's have a look what we have here. So what employer need to do? It is the employer responsibility to deduct the tax and national insurance from the employee and pay to Hmrc. So that means every single employer, they work like a employee for the Hmrc because they have to deduct the tax and the national insurance from from the employee, and at the end they have to pay to Hmrc every month. Let's have a look. The next thing, what payment does PAYE apply? So any sort of payment that we pay to the employee that is under the PAYE consideration. For example, salary and wages, for example, bonus, statutory pay, maternity, paternity, everything, even including the tips, unless they are paid directly to your employee. So any sort of payment we pay to the employee from the employment from the employer, so this will be subject to our PAYE. Then let's move to the next one, the tax code. The another important area that we have to learn for the payroll, that is tax code. Tax code is quite important because you're going to receive everyday tax code from Hmrc. Now there are basic rate, higher rate and additional rate for the employee. So if employee earn up to £12,500 a year, that is called personal allowance. So up to this amount, the employee don't have to pay any tax. So that is a tax-free amount. Every person in the United Kingdom, they have a personal allowance unless they cross the threshold. So, and after that we have to know some bandwidth. So bandwidth represent like if someone earn 1 to 37,000, of course we have to take away 12,500 from here, and the tax rate is 20%. If someone earning between 37 to 150,000, the tax rate is 40%. If someone earning 150,000 and more, then the tax rate is 45%. So all of this information will be relevant if you calculate the tax. Now all this tax is calculated under the tax code. Personal allowance calculation. Remember, if someone earning is more than 100,000, this person start losing the personal allowance. So for example, if someone earning is 110,000, so they will only get half of the personal allowance that is excess of 100,000. So if someone earning reached £125,000, this person will not be entitled for any personal allowance. So if someone earn 125,000 or more, this person will not get any personal allowance that is 12,500. Let's talk about the taxable benefit calculation. Taxable benefit calculation is all about when you receive any sort of benefit from the employment. For example, you can receive a car, you can receive a sort of a medical benefit, health insurance. If you receive anything from your employment, then it will be calculated under the benefit and it will be also taxable. Let's understand the tax code. So every employee will have a different tax code. You will receive this tax code from Hmrc. So Hmrc will send you different sort of tax code, and different tax code have different meaning. For example, we have some standard tax code. You can see that is 1250L. So that means up to 12,050 we don't have to pay the tax. You can see 11,050L. So up to 11,500 you don't have to pay the tax. So L is a very standard tax code. Normally every employee have the L, but there is some non-standard tax code. For example, BR means the basic rate. That means if someone have more than one job and the next job will be treated as a tax rate 20% unless they split the personal allowance. So for example, if you have a two job, and one job, from first job you earn £15,000, and from the next job you earn even £1, you have to pay 20% tax because the first job cover all the personal allowance. Then we have a OT, DO, so this tax code have a different meaning. So for example, when you see the tax code P and Y, it indicates the person age is over 65. So in this payroll, you will have an option to enter the tax code, so you have to enter the right tax code there. Now of course, what will be the tax code? It will be indicated by the Hmrc. Even though you enter the wrong tax code within a week or 2 weeks, you will receive a letter from Hmrc and it will tell you to enter the right tax code for that. Then we have some more tax code here to understand. Then let's understand the national insurance contribution. National insurance contribution, this one has to be paid by both employee and the employer. So the rate for the employee is 12%. For the employer, it is 13.8%. Even if you are self-employed, you still have to pay some national insurance, and it is fixed amount per week. So for example, if you are employee, what happened? Let's try to understand the threshold. So lower threshold we have up to 6240, and the primary threshold, this is normally used if someone is age over 21 or more, and this is very linked with everything as well, so you need to understand everything. So let's understand the basic thing. If someone income is 9,500 per year, so this person don't have to pay the national insurance. So like a personal allowance, if someone income is 9,500, he don't have to pay the national insurance. On the other hand, if someone income is 8,788, the employer don't have to pay an employer's national insurance for that employee. And the upper threshold is 50,000. That means this 12,000 rate for the employee national insurance contribution will be stopped when the earning will touch 50,000. So if anyone earn more than £50,000 a year, then between 50 and the rest of the excess will be 2%. For example, if someone earn £60,000, so how do we calculate the national insurance? So first we said 50,000 minus 9,500, and we times by 12%. So between 50 and 9,500, the rate is 12%, and 50 to 60, this 10,000, the rate will be 2%. All right, let's move to the next one. Then we have NI claim for Hmrc. So obviously, like NI refund are made to employee. If too much NI is deducted, the employer should let the Hmrc know. Normally, NI, national insurance, you don't get refund unless there is some mistake. And obviously, employer's NI will be sorted through the employment allowance calculation. So every employer, every business have some allowance. For 2022, it is £4,000 per year. So if the employer have a national insurance contribution after 4,000, he don't have to pay any national insurance to Hmrc, but the employee have to pay the national insurance definitely, and it is not refundable, and unless there is some mistake. Then we have a minimum wages. So minimum wages change every year April. The government can change more than that in a year, but normally it is changed every year April. So it depends on the age. So for example, from this year April 2022 April, from this year the minimum wages will be £9.50. So that is kind of changing every year. So it depends on the age. So you need to check always how much is the minimum wages. So we are not allowed to pay any employee less than the minimum wages if the threshold reach according to the age limit. So you always have to look at how old this person, and we cannot pay less than that amount if the government set amount for that. So there is a rate for 2019, 20, and we have a 21 and 22 as well. Let's look at the next one. The next topic we're going to talk about introduction to RTI, that is real-time information. Now this one is quite important, that is real-time information. This one we introduce to submit the information to Hmrc. So tell them how much tax, how much the salary, and how much the national insurance the employee is paying. So this one you have to submit every month or every week before you make the payment to the employee. For example, if you pay your employee weekly, you have to tell every week to HMRC how much you are paying to the employee, how much is the tax, how much is national insurance and everything. If you pay your employee monthly, you have to tell every month. The next one, we have the key RTI point. RTI introduced in April 2013. So from that time, we have to submit all the information through online. Before that, it was some paper form, so you have to fill a lot of paper, sent to HMRC to calculate the national insurance contribution and the other thing, the tax. But right now, from 2013 April, the HMRC introduced the electronic system that is called RTI, and through RTI we use the payroll software, and by using the payroll software we submit all the information to HMRC. Then we have, why has HMRC introduced RTI? It is like very simple, and it will make your life very easy, and also to reduce the fraud. And the next important point we have here, RTI process. This we're going to learn from the payroll how to submit the RTI, this and that. And the next important point we do in the payroll, that is called a full payment submission. Full payment submission, or FPS, is very important. This is the way we submit the information to HMRC regarding when the employee started the work, when the employee start working for the company, how much the national insurance is paying, what is the employee's name, date of birth, gender, address, and how much is the PAYE contribution. So everything we submit through FPS, and we called it full payment submission. This one have to be submit to HMRC before the payment made to the employees. So every time a payment is made to an employee, the submission must be made on or before the date the employee is paid. Therefore, if a mixture of weekly or monthly payrolls are made, a submission for the FPS will need to be made for each payment. Alright, the next one is called Employment Payment Summary, or EPS. So EPS is only submitted whenever employer need to reclaim statutory payment. For example, statutory sick pay, statutory maternity, statutory paternity, but we need to make sure we are claiming the right amount, because some of the money statutory payment, for example, maternity, paternity, this sort of payment HMRC give us back. But remember, sick pay, the HMRC don't give us back. It is the employer or the company responsibility to pay sick payment to their employee, unless some different circumstances could raise. For example, because of the COVID, the government introduced a new scheme where you can get the sick pay back from HMRC. The next one we have here, National Verification Request, NVR. This is, you can check the NINO or National Insurance Number. You can check if the employee give any national insurance number to you. So you can check it is correct or not. So you can send the verification, but you have to wait 2 weeks when you're sending the first RTI to HMRC. So after making the full submission, you have to wait 2 weeks so that HMRC can update the system and check it, because it is possible sometimes the employee can bring the wrong national insurance number for you, and you can always make the verification if you want to. All right, then we have some pension. So every employee, if someone is over 22, by law you have to put them in a pension. Now of course, like it depends some other requirement as well. For example, the employee need to earn at least £192 a month, a week. So if any employee earn less than 192, is not required by law to put them on the pension. But if any employee earn more than £192 a week, and if the age is more than 22, by law, or it is a legal requirement, you have to put that employee on the payroll. But the employee have an option. The employee can opt out. If the employee don't want to stay on the pension, the employee can opt out from the pension scheme. But as an employer, it is your responsibility to enroll this employee on the pension. Top of that, we have something called pension regulator. We have to fulfill some declaration. So this is the responsibility sometimes also done by the payroll manager. So this is our story for the PY tools. Let's talk about a little bit our forms. So forms for HMRC. The first form we can see here, it is called P11D deduction. This one will give you the whole year, how much tax you paid, how much NI you paid. You can see it from your software. And this P11 deduction form will give you the calculation throughout the year. So this is normally used to see like how much calculation, how much deduction you made and how much you paid to HMRC. Then we have a P14 and P35. So we do not use this form anymore after we start the ITI. This one was submitted manually before to HMRC, but nowadays we don't use P14 or we don't use P35 anymore. The next one we have expense and the benefit. Now, if the company give you any sort of benefit, for example, if the company give you a car, if the company give you a flat or accommodation or medical benefit, any sort of benefit, if you receive from the employer or from the business, from the company, you have to declare it to HMRC. And the way you do that, there is a form called P9D or P11D or P11DB. You have to use the right form to declare how much you're getting from the HMRC, because some of the amount is a taxable, and of course, like, you have to pay the national insurance, and also the employer have to pay the national insurance on that benefit as well. Then the next one we have new employer. So when you are a new employer, for example, when you are starting recruiting the employee for your payroll, so you have to know a few things. The first thing you need to do, you need to apply for PAYE reference number. So once you apply the PAYE reference number, you will receive two things. The first one you're going to receive, that is called accounts office reference number and employer reference PAYE reference number. This thing is the key information you need to submit the RTI to HMRC. If you don't have this two things, you cannot submit your information to HMRC at all. So every employer needs to register itself to HMRC for the purpose of PAYE, and HMRC issue an employee registration letter. And on this letter, you're going to see these two numbers, and you have to input this information on the payroll software in order to submit any information to HMRC. The next one we're going to talk about statutory maternity pay. We called it SMP. That is some guideline that you need to know about the SMP. It could change every year, but normally what happen, every person, the person worked for the company at least for 26 weeks, this person can be eligible for the SMP payment. So let's say if a woman worked for 26 weeks for your company and at least earn £120 a week, so minimum earning is £120 she need to earn in order to qualify for SMP payment. And after, she can go for 39 weeks minimum, so she can stay on the leave 39 weeks and she will get some payment for that. So the payment is 90% she will get for the first 6 weeks. So for the first 6 weeks, she's going to receive 90% of her weekly average earning. For example, if someone earned £1,000 a week, so she will get 900 per week for the next 6 weeks. And after 6 weeks, for the remaining 33 weeks, she will receive either 151.20 or 90% of their average earning. Which one is lower? So for example, if the lower one is £120, 90% of the average weekly wages, then we have to take that one. If the 90% is higher than 151, then we have to take the 151, because we always take the lower one for the remaining 33 weeks. So this is the statutory payment, 39 weeks, but some company, they can pay more than that. Some company can pay like even 52 weeks or more than 1 year. So there is no maximum restriction, but there's a minimum restriction. You have to pay your employee 39 weeks. The next one is the statutory paternity pay. This one is entitled for the father. So the requirement here is the same thing. You have to earn at least £120 per week, and you have to tell your employer you want to go for a paternity leave. Now all of this statutory payment, if you don't get it from the employer, you have an option. You can claim it from the Job Center Plus or from the government. So here what happened, you can get 2 weeks statutory paternity payment, but you have to claim it within 56 days of the birth. So once the baby is born, from that day, from that time, you have 56 days to claim the paternity payment, and the leave cannot start before the baby birth. So you have to wait until the baby birth. But for the SNP, for the statutory maternity payment for the women, she can go 11 weeks before the baby due, but for the dad, he need to wait until the baby birth, and within 56 days he can go for 2 weeks paternity payment. It's the same story. He will get either 90% of the average weekly wages or 151.20, which one is lower. Then you have a sick pay. Now sick pay is a little bit tricky. Of course, like you need to read the whole story, how does it work. The first 3 days normally you don't get the sick pay because it is called cooling period or cooling days. So if someone is sick for 7 days, normally he or she don't get paid for 7 days. The first 3 days she don't get any sick payment anyway. So the sick payment is normally £95.85 per week, but it depends how many qualifying days you work in a week. For example, some employees just work 5 days a week, some employee maybe 3 days a week. So it depends like how many hours, how many days you work for the company. So statutory sick pay is an earning replacement for the employee who are off from the work due to sickness, and the maximum sick payment you can receive 28 week. So after that, the employer, the company maybe decide they want to pay you sick or not. So after 28 weeks they can stop. Alright, so this is the sick pay, and we have a claim. So all the statutory payment we can claim back from Hmrc, even if you don't have like, for example, money to pay the paternity or maternity. You can ask the Hmrc for the advance payment, and they will give you the advance payment so that you can pay to your employee. So you can claim, if you are an employer, you can claim up to 92% of this payment. But if you are a small employer, who can claim up to 103% of the statutory payment. So for example, if you pay 100% to your employee, you can get 103%. If you are a small employer, that means you pay national insurance or paying 45,000 or less in class 1 national insurance. So if this is your condition, you can claim 103%. Alright, and if the employer is financially not viable, they can claim for the advance payment, and you can tell the Hmrc, please pay this money to me because I need to pay to my employee statutory payment. Alright, employee leaving. If the employee leaving, you have to give the P45, and P45 give you the details when the employee is exactly leaving from the employment. It is 3 pages information, and it will shows like how much the employee earned from this employment, and how much was the tax she or he paid, and how much was the earning for this period. And that will be helpful for that employee for the new job, because new job will know how much will be the appropriate tax code for this new employee. So P45 is a vital information for the employee who is leaving from the job, and it is important for that person when they started the new job. They can give this P45 and they can get the right tax. This is the form P45 look like. So of course, like you can see, there's a 3 form, and 1 for the employee and this 2 for the new employer. Alright, so this is the little understanding of our payroll process. Of course, it is not everything, but it will give you a quick idea about like what is payroll, what information we need to know, how does it work and everything. Hopefully, like now we have some idea about the payroll, and of course, like if we keep listening, and if we keep practicing, and if we keep ourselves up to date with the Hmrc and other thing, we'll know exactly what's happening. But this thing is quite like changeable year, because every year the payroll is change, and the information is change. So if you have a software, the software automatically updated the information, but some of the information maybe you have to do it manually. So you have to always look at the Hmrc site to see what information coming from the employer. So if Hmrc change anything, we have to make sure our payroll is up to date. And of course, like any minimum wages, any tax code, everything change. Normally the payroll up to date it automatically. Hopefully now we understand a little bit about the payroll, and the more practice we'll do on the software.